Good morning, adventurers. My name is Ben, and welcome to a morning show where I sit around, drink some tea, and talk about D&D. First up for D&D today, we have our King Leo D&D mug. Again, friend of the show. Check out their shop, check out their show. They do some really great work. And go support them. Small stream, they do really great things over there. Inside of it, I successfully forgot to bring the box with me, but it is the Celestial Seasonings Country Peach Passion? I don't know if there's a passion at the end. It's the peach one. Peach one from Celestial Seasonings. Very, very good. Nice kind of fruity pop at the end of the night for you, if that is what you want. I was supposed to start shooting this like 45 minutes ago, but I did the ADHD thing. I don't have ADHD, but I did the ADHD thing where I was like, I'm cleaning up from dinner, and the sink is not running the way it should be. Oh, let me see what's that. And then the next thing I knew, my sink was apart, and I was deep in Google trying to figure out how to fix it. So, I'm trying to get all my thoughts recollected here, but we are just going to go ahead and we're going to dive straight in, back into our Spelljammer book sleeve thing here. We have, they're in the wrong hands. Today, we have, there we go, Boo's Astral Menagerie. This one is honestly probably my favorite of the three books in the set here. I love a good set of monster blocks and stuff like that. And this one, I think, honestly, might be the one that delivers the most for me of the three books in here. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to crack it open and we're going to talk about it. So let's go ahead and let's dive on into it. We set this down on the other side of the dog here. There we go. My dog is on the ground next to me. So, as with the other books, this one is also exactly 64 pages long. Why they are all exactly the same length, I don't really know. But it's kind of fun in a weird way. This is a good first page. If you have not seen it, it's just Boo. He's coming at you because it's his Astral Menagerie. I don't know. This, as I mentioned, is essentially just a monster book. It is full of stat blocks. There is no other real content in here. They are exclusively stat blocks, and as an extension of that, they are a little bit of lore associated with each of the stat blocks, but for the most part, they're just straight up stat blocks with some suggestions essentially on how you can implement them into your game. So this is the monster manual section of our 3-book set here. We did the PHB DMG on Monday. This one is our monster manual, and then on Friday we're gonna have our adventure. So hang with it, strap in. We're going to go through it real quick. We're going to talk about a couple of these, but we're going to more focus on the book as a whole. So, first things first, this really does feel like it warrants being its own thing in the set. It feels like something that really warrants the set existing as well, because so many of these things will only exist in a space setting. That is what is really nice about this. You are not necessarily going to find a, space eel on the material plane in the Forgotten Realms or something like that. Stuff like that is what you are going to find in this book. That is what you are signing up for when you open up this bad boy, which is great, honestly. It makes it feel a little bit more worthwhile to have its own separate book, its own separate set here, which I really, really like. I'm a big fan of that. For the most part, I really do enjoy all the stat blocks in here. I think that they are good. They have a good range on them, which is always nice. They definitely favor the low mid, which makes sense. That's where most D&D campaigns are going to actually fall in terms of combat and story. But I wish they had some more of the higher level stuff in here, just because, like, in my head, it makes sense for a game to naturally, over the progression of the game, go from being on the face of a planet to, by the end game, being up in the stars, if that is the direction that the game is going to be going. So I do wish that they had some more of the high level stuff, end game type stuff built in here. But if you are going to the higher levels anyway, you are going to be making a lot of game tweaks, because that is the way that the game works. So it is not overly surprising that they don't have a lot of like high CR monsters stuck in this book. So getting into it a little bit here, they start off really pretty strong with a couple of other monsters. The Artux. They're fine. They're nothing super special. The thing that I want to hit on first is the Astral Elves, actually, because you get Astral Elf stat blocks in here. And this is the first letdown for me, I guess, if you could call it that, in the book, in that, in my head, the Astral Elves set the bar really high. Because of one feature specifically that I believe is with the Astral Elf Aristocrats. Let me make sure before I commit to that one. Yes. So with the Astral Elf Aristocrat, they have the ability to summon a solar dragon once per day. 50-50 shot, coin flip on whether or not it actually works. But they have an ability called Summon Solar Dragon. And so in my head, I was like, oh, that's awesome. They're going to be doing a lot of this sort of interactive stuff between all of these different creatures that all share this space setting. That doesn't end up happening a lot in this book. And by a lot, I mean, it really only happens here. This is the only one that can directly interact with another creature somewhere else in the book via specifically a feature. There are some of them that can like conjure up things that are similar to themselves or copies of themselves or something like that. This is the one that is like, other thing from this realm, come to me. And so I was really excited to see that more once I saw it so early on in the book, and then it didn't happen. I wasn't super thrilled about that, but it's really cool that it exists, because it doesn't, what it is not a mount or something for the Astral Elf. It is then its own entity that comes in and helps or fights or is a distraction, however you end up wanting to play it as the DM and players. So it's cool that it just will introduce that extra element into the battlefield for you. So I was a big fan of that. Skipping down a little bit, the Dohwar, I think I'm pronouncing that right, Dohwar, are amazing. They're fantastic, and I love them deeply, and I wish that this had been a player race that they had presented us with. If you are not watching this, then I'm here to tell you that the Dohwar are penguin people. Penguin people. That's so fun. And obviously you can homebrew that. You can make it your own. You can come up with it. They're Fae, which is a different kind of thing in this book. For the most part, these things are aberrations because of space. But they're Fae, and so they're in the realm of things that players could be, really. And obviously players can be whatever, but like published material that players are already having access to. Players have access to Fae creatures as things they could be. I wanted to see this as a player race. I didn't even know it until I opened the book. However, it's pretty interesting because they are CR0 in this book. And so it's kind of fun to just be like, oh, there are average people, and by average people I do mean like giant penguins, but like you can just be there are just regulars in the space realm. You don't have to fight everything that comes up, because on the opposite page of it is a cosmic horror, which is terrifying, hence the name Cosmic Horror. And so it just stuff like that, it's like, oh, that's really cool. I wish that maybe, just maybe, we had gotten a little bit more of that in the other, but what is it called? The Astral Adventurer's Guide. There we go. My brain has been all over this stuff. It's kind of a problem. Skipping forward again, we come to the Kindori, which I think are amazing. I think they're so cool. They are space whales. You know what I don't think is super cool about them, though? The fact that they get up to be 80 feet long. 80 feet long? That's what you want to go with. Really. There's a giant space millipede thing in here that can be up to 150 feet long. That's about double the length of a whale in space. I get that means that the millipede is extra terrifying, but like 80 feet long is the size of a lot of recorded blue whales on Earth. And I know that blue whales are the biggest mammals or the biggest animals on the planet right now, but like, it's fantasy. Make them bigger. Make them extra big. And that is something that you can do as a DM. That is something that I will be doing. There will be massive space whales that are like miles long, because that's way cooler and makes way more sense to me than these silly little 80 feet long whales. Yeah, the size of boats and planes and stuff. But overall, really cool. CR7, not really aggressive things. They don't really have attacks necessarily. Like, they have a tail attack, but like they're just there to kind of like do their thing. Apparently their only real competition is Lunar and Solar Dragons, which is where we get to next. The Lunar Dragon. Lunar Dragon, for me, hits. It's solid. I like it. I wish it were a little different maybe, because it does feel just kind of like a terrestrial dragon. It feels like a weird sort of blend of a chromatic and a metallic, which is cool. Don't get me wrong. I'm here for it. But I do wish that there was like a touch more in it. Like they're kind of, I don't even know. They're cool. They really are. And the fact that they essentially are moon dragons, they aren't like dragons that are the size of moons, but they are dragons that live on moons. That's pretty awesome. And they do exist sort of in a complete dichotomy to solar dragons, which is cool too. But they are more, they're more interesting than the solar dragons are. To read the first sentence here, lunar dragons, also known as moon dragons or phase dragons, are capricious, xenophobic creatures that make their lairs inside desolate moons by burrowing through the rock. Like, that's cool. They live in the rock. They hate everything, essentially, is what it comes down to. But they are honestly pretty cool as a dragon, I think. The ancient is CR19, so it actually falls more in the category of the upper adults or the lower ancients. So it's on the weaker side, which is fine, not a huge deal, but it is something to keep in mind if you're going to use them. I just flipped to it. The Megapede, this guy here, is the thing that can be up to 150 feet long. It is exactly what it looks like. It's a giant millipede. It's a CR11. It's got a life drain, which is pretty cool, but like otherwise, it is overall not the most notable thing. I say that knowing that it has an attack called Psychic Bomb, but it is what it is. There's no like flying speed. There's nothing like overly exciting about it, other than the fact that it has life drain and Psychic Bomb. It can use one of either on its turn. So you gotta pick. Murder Comet, that's just a fun name. They're not anything spectacular, but they're just kind of fun. Plasmoids are exactly what they sound like. Plasmoids are the ooze people. This next one, the Rygar, another thing that I wish we had as a race available to players. I think that it's a really interesting opportunity that they didn't jump on for some reason. Rygar are androgynous folk who evolved into humanoid shape from a species of cephalopods similar to octopi. They have bioluminescent freckles and the ability to change the coloration of their skin. A glory, or halo, surrounds each of them. This magical display is a cloud of twinkling, glittering motes that change color randomly and repels attacks. So essentially, they're like kind of space angels. They each are like bonded to this magic item that allows them to allows them to summon a golem that is the same as them, essentially, to help them in combat, which is cool, and it makes sense as to why that is a combat thing then. But they seem like they're kind of a merging of Kalishtar and Aasimar in terms of flavor, in my mind at least. So that's pretty cool. I am a fan of that, and I hope that they do introduce that at some point here, because it would be a really cool race to have. Scavers, space sharks, whatever. I only say whatever. They are pretty cool. I say whatever because next up we come to the Solar Dragons. This is, honestly, to me, the biggest disappointment in this book, which is saying quite a bit because it takes a lot for me to be disappointed in a dragon. But there's just nothing about it that I'm like, wow, that's incredible. Other than the fact that they are born from the heart of a star. Like, that's super metal. That's really awesome. But then it's just kind of boring, the rest of it. They're all neutral. They don't really care about stuff. They don't deal with people. They don't like dealing with other stuff. They just want to do their own thing. They're not super into like collecting a lot of stuff. They're just kind of there. And their breath weapon is cool. Don't get me wrong. It's like a fireball of radiant energy, which is awesome, but it's not as devastating as a cone, I don't think. In my opinion, it's a 40-foot radius sphere, so it's massive. Don't get me wrong there. For the ancient, but like, it's not a 90-foot cone or a 70-foot cone or anything like that, and they don't feel quite as dangerous to me for some reason, and I don't know why that is, because they obviously very much are. It's a CR20 monster for the ancient. Existing in space in this capacity is just kind of insane. And so it's weird to me that I don't feel like super intimidated by them. Like, I was expecting to feel the way that I felt when I read the Elderbrain Dragon when I read this one, and I just didn't, and that's the way it goes. However, its lair, on the other hand, is it's a star, essentially. And so if a creature enters the star or starts its turn there, it takes 24d10 radiant damage, which is a lot. Just, you know, it's a little bit. And so those kind of effects that surround it, I think, are really, really cool. I think those are really phenomenal, and I think that those are worth implementing, even if you're not using them as a dragon. Like, if somebody flies into a star, they should probably be taking 24d10 radiant damage. Anyway, moving forward from there, because we got to keep going, we get to the space stuff, is what I'm going to call it here. It's a section where the things are just the name of the thing preceded by space. So, like, we have space eel, space guppy, space clown. There are killer clowns in space in this game. Why not? Those are the kind of things that I think feed into why this book should be its own book. I'm a fan that they have random crazy stuff like that in there. They need to have the jokes in there in order for it to feel like a D&D book to me. So I'm glad that they kept that up in here. Even though the space clowns, technically, very much scary if presented in the right way. Also, if you're going to use space clowns, make sure you check in with your players. Make sure they don't have fears of clowns, because that would be a really, really not great thing to throw at somebody who's terrified of clowns. Just saying. But yeah, we also have space eel, space guppy, space hamster, space mollymock, space swine. That's the end of the spaces. Space hamster and giant space hamster are in here, which I think is goofy and fun. Giant space hamsters are large. They're the size of brown bears, so you can ride on them, which is awesome. There is a little off sentence in here saying that gnomes have been attempting to build spelljamming ships that are powered by space hamsters to no avail, which is just kind of goofy. It's one of those jokes that I was just talking about. And so all of those things being in there are pretty cool, all things considered. The only other notable section in here to me is the Vam Pirates. There is a section on Thri-kreen and NPCs in that capacity, but the Vam Pirates are interesting because they technically kind of encompass the entirety of undead in space, but they are specifically vampire-ish in that they are more like our good friend Colin Robinson from What We Do in the Shadows. They are more energy vampires than specifically like terrestrial vampires the way that we think of them. And so it's interesting that they have them in here. It's cool, I think. And it's a fun sort of alternative to the Space Clown. If you want to go in that like cosmic horror-y kind of way, but like Funhouse kind of cosmic horror-y, also a good way to do it. That brings us to the end of this. Honestly, I talked a little bit longer than I expected to about it because there's some cool stuff in here. Again, this is probably my favorite book of the three. I really enjoy the other two. I do, but like this one delivers for me. Even though I mentioned several different gripes that I have with it, they're like random little things that I can tweak and fix. The only one that I'm really, really bummed about is the Solar Dragon, and that is probably just because I have the Cosmic Dragon Breviary from Spectre Creations, which is such a good book. It does astral, solar, lunar, etc. dragons to such a good degree. Highly recommend that book too, checking it out. But this one is cool. I really like this one. This one, obviously you have to get the set to get this one, so it's going to have a steeper price tag, and it is only 64 pages, so like, don't get the full set just for this if you're not sold on the other two. But I think this is a really cool book, and I really did enjoy it quite a bit. So that brings us to the end of that, which brings us to the shows that we have today and tomorrow. Today we have, obviously, Dimension 20, Knocked Prone, Venture Maidens, Trials and Trebuchets, and Roll Out. And then tomorrow we have Critical Role, Authors and Dragons, NADPOD, and LGBT D&D. And actually thinking about it, I don't think we have Critical Role tomorrow because it should be the last Thursday of the month. So scratch that one, but the other ones are still in there. Let them know that I sent you if you guys check them out, because eventually somebody's going to say something to me about it, and I'm going to think that it's pretty funny. But with all that said, thank you guys so much for making me part of your morning routine. I really do appreciate it. And thank you so much in particular to my patrons. You guys are the ones that make this show possible. If you're interested in becoming a patron, check out the link in the episode description of this episode. Thank you guys so much. And with all that said, don't forget, everybody, drink tea, play D&D, and keep on rolling.